Right. Good morning. I pulled today's guest out of bed early this morning to sit down with me. And so before I started the recording, I was graciously thanking her for getting up and being with us this morning. But I realized when I started doing these that I have not introduced myself. I have not said even what we're doing here and what we're trying to achieve. And this kind of little snowball has turned into like the giant base of a snowman, and I'm excited about that. So my name is Melissa. This is the Inspired Women Inspire Women series. It has I've gotten such amazing feedback from women in our Scentsy community, and even people outside of our community, our Scentsy community, that are tuning in. And I think that that's really cool, if for absolutely no other reason than them being able to see that what we do here is bigger than just selling a product. And I think that is the culture you and I have grown up in with Scentsy, and that this is kind of the message that we're always on a mission to share. That, like, listen, yeah, the product is what brings us all here and together, but the stories are what are the lasting impression. And so with that, I want to introduce you guys to somebody who I had the pleasure of getting to know just a couple months ago. You and I had our first opportunity. I mean, we've known each other because you've been with Scentsy since when?
7 years this month.
Okay, so we've been in Scentsy together, and our paths have crossed, but we really had an opportunity to get to know each other in April when you and I were at a retreat together. And I'm so grateful for that, because I feel like you and I connected. Oh, yeah. I feel like I look back on that time that I spent with you as something that I really cherish, because it's about getting to know people. We are in a people business. And so getting to know people beyond just their name and how much they sell is so powerful. And so I am so happy to sit down with you this morning. You and I did a training recently. Actually, I guested for you. And during that, you had said that I was like the Ellen of Scentsy, and to me, you're like the Oprah of Scentsy. So this is kind of fun. So for anybody that's watching, this is like sitting down with Oprah and Ellen. Okay. At the end of this, I'm going to get up and dance, and Theresa's going to give away cars. Okay. Right. So just so that you know where we're going here. But anyways, I'm not going to talk anymore, except for to ask you some of the things that we all want to know. But tell us, who are you, Theresa? Who are you? Why should we care who you are? Give us anything that you want to say to introduce yourself.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much for being here with me this morning. It's really, really an honor. So who am I? I am Theresa Gauche, and I am a wife. I am a mother of 4 children. My husband is a veteran, so I was also a military spouse at some point. I'm a business owner, and I am courageous, and I am imperfect.
Courageous and imperfect. Yes. So what is the path or the journey that led you to Scentsy 7 years ago? So, what's your background? How did you get here?
Okay, so what led me to Scentsy was I loved candles. I loved anything that smelled good from an early age. And recently I realized I was able to trace it back to like 6 years old with my nose and scent. And I actually have, I don't know if you remember this, Melissa, but I used to be obsessed with strawberry shortcake dolls. And so I found this last year at Target, and it smells just like back in the day. So when I purchased that, I was like, I've always loved scents. You know, I remember going out, collecting all these little dolls and their animals and being out with my friends. I'm like, smell this, smell the pet, you know? So I've always loved scents. I grew up in Virginia. I was born in Germany. My mother is German and my father is African-American. And when I married my husband, he received orders here in Texas. We're literally in the middle of nowhere. So no offense to anyone that lives by me. So I remember using all kinds of different products, incense, you name it, and I remember going to a friend's house and she was actually warming fried ice cream. And I was like, what is this? And she goes, oh, I have a basket party. And that did it for me. I was actually working in the airline security industry at the time at home. And it was a very stressful job, career, if you will. And I never ever thought that I would be selling Scentsy, but here I am after smelling fried ice cream from her porch.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that the story of so many? Not that your story is unique to you, but isn't that the story we hear
Yes.
so often is that it's like I never expected to start a Scentsy business. I never expected to get into this, but I fell in love first.
Yes, yes,
And we
absolutely.
all have that memory of that first Scentsy fragrance. Mine was perfectly pomegranate, that we instantly go back to. We're like, okay, that's what did it for me.
Right, right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, so you started, and at what point did you leave your career?
Well, it was so interesting when I was listening to your story when you were the Shining Star recipient. I was like, oh my gosh, how relatable. I was laid off after 16 years.
What
16
after
years.
16 years?
Yes. And the thing is, this job, this career that I had, it started right after 9/11. I used to work for in-flight catering at the airport. And after 9/11, we weren't really catering anything, right? And that's when the TSA was created. So they're like, if you want anything on this aircraft, it needs to be secured. I was still very young at the time. I think we had an operation with 300 employees, 27 managers, and I was a supervisor at the time. Everybody was laid off except for 7 of us, and I was kept. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a miracle. So, anyway, I was, helping build this company from the ground up, the training, everything. And just like that, I was let go. And so I got into Scentsy only because my consultant moved. She was military and her husband was getting out. And I was like, well, I guess I'll buy for myself. And if anyone else wants anything. But again, never in a million years did I think that I would be doing this as a career. But at the time that I was laid off, I'm very introspective and I look back and God knew, He knew when I was smelling fried ice cream that this would not just be a hobby. I was working from home, so I thought, oh, I can get to know people, they can come over and we can smell scent testers and bars. But he knew, that the doors would close at some point, and this would be what I had to fall back on. So yeah, so this is my new career. One thing that is interesting is in that last career, I never had a pay raise in 16 years, not once. Not one year did I ever have a pay raise. What we had were bonuses, and that was if you were eligible that year. And so it was all the same. So my pay never increased. What I love about Scentsy is I'm in charge of my increase. I get to choose and I get to work. My performance determines and dictates a promotion, and that promotion is there's no cap, which is amazing.
Yeah, and you have the opportunity to travel. I know in
Yes.
my prior career, tra- income was capped. There were no travel opportunities.
No.
And now it's like this door has opened. A lot of friends outside of Scentsy have said to me in the past, are you sure Scentsy isn't just the front for like a travel club?
Right.
And I'm like, that's kind of the coolest compliment in the world is that I get to travel with friends that I've met across the world, across the globe, across the country, and we get to meet up in fun places and be together. And
Right.
and speaking to what you said, like how I work dictates what I receive.
Right.
And that's a huge misconception in our industry is that you hit a certain level and you can sit back and collect.
Hmm.
And that couldn't be further from the truth.
Correct.
Let me ask you though, what does the word work mean to you in Scentsy? Because to me, the definition of working is a little bit different with what we do because we really love it.
Yes.
So, what does when we say I'm going to go work my business, what does that look like? What are the things you get to call work that
So what's different now for me is I get to work. I don't have to work. I don't have to sit in traffic like I did when I was driving to Washington, D.C. every morning from Virginia. But when I wake up in the morning, I get up and I'm inspired to work. I want to work. Um, and really what work looks like for me is pouring into people, pouring into my leaders, pouring into my team, and even pouring into my customers. Originally when I got into this, I was like, well, I don't need the money. I was getting paid very well. My husband at the time was military, active duty military. And ironically, the same month that he was medically retired from the military is when I received the email that I was being laid off. And I was like, great, we're both unemployed now. And we were homeless too, because we lived on base. And so they're like, well, you guys kind of have to leave. And I was like, oh, so anyway, now I appreciate work. And I love my parents so much because they taught me the value of work. They always told me that nothing in life was going to be handed to me. And that couldn't be any further than the truth. Yes, I have this opportunity, and yes, I have this awesome title as superstar director, but the world doesn't know what that means, right? So I get to work every day. And so, originally when I wasn't in this for the income opportunity, I remember telling God, I was like, I want to meet women. I want to meet new friends, but through this wax, if I can witness or minister to anyone, that comes through my doors, through this wax, then let this be my platform. So it's still a platform 7 years later. When I worked at the airport, I didn't travel a lot, ironically. Now that I'm talking to you, I didn't travel much. But I felt fulfilled in my career because I felt like I was protecting the flying public from terrorists. And so when I moved into this, I'm like, okay, so now what am I doing? How is this fulfilling? How am I impacting the world? And I am. I know that I am every single day. I love nothing more than to see men and women reach breakthroughs. There's so many people in this industry and out of this industry that they just lack confidence. You wouldn't see that on Facebook or Instagram, but when you really get down to it, and turn off the power button, there's so many people that struggle. A lot of people do. And so I get to help people, and it's weird that it happens through wax, but I get to do that.
It 100%. Actually, one of the things I like to talk about is how Scentsy has actually just become the vehicle for us to take the things that we're good at and improve upon the things we aren't, but to use it as a vehicle to find our platform and purpose. Right. And you just said that. You just completely supported that idea that though it's wax, and we kind of joke sometimes, we're like, it's really not that deep. It's wax and warmers.
Right.
But actually, that symbolism of the wax and the warmers, what it means to us and how it's changed our lives and how it's impacted, and we've been able to witness how it has impacted others around us. It's the connective tissue that we have, that we all feel like we're called to this greatness, right? Like we have the ability to be our best selves and help others realize their best selves too. What skills have you gained since starting your business? Like, what would you say, like, because of my Scentsy business, I now fill in the blank? And it could be anything from, I didn't know how to use a photo app before I started doing Scentsy. I mean, so it could be anything.
So before starting Scentsy, I did have some skills from my last career that I was able to bring over to this, but no, I did not know how to use a photo app. I did not know how to use Zoom, even a year and a half ago, And so for me, I always tell people to do it scared. And so Zoom was one of the things that terrified me. And Zoom's been around for a little bit, but it just terrified me. Going live was something that terrified me. Doing something like this would terrify me. And I'm not going to say I'm not scared right now, but I can say that I had some confidence coming in, but in a different category, if you will. But coming here, I've learned how to handle rejection in a more mature manner, and I haven't arrived completely yet. But I've grown. So those are some of the, I guess, internal skills that I have collected on the way.
Yeah. And a few external as well, because you said Zoom.
Yes,
And you said, I mean, going live, those are externals. And
right.
um, I stunk at public speaking when I
Oh,
first started, and it was very difficult for me. And now I feel like this, because of this business, my comfort level has grown and my confidence in myself has grown. And so,
right.
um, but a friend of mine outside of Scentsy had come to me and said, I found the coolest app. I found the coolest app I have to tell you about. It's called Marco Polo. And I was like, oh, I mean, you know, in
Right,
Scentsy, we're kind of cutting edge. And like Marco Polo is like so 4 years ago.
right,
So I feel like I'm like on trend. I feel like
right.
with Scentsy, I know what the latest and greatest is. I know what the app everybody's talking about and using. And um, so what would you say, having kind of built your journey for us, what would you say keeps you here?
Well, what keeps me here is definitely my why.
Which
I
is
hold on to that, which my why is my family, my children, and my husband. I did not realize, the opportunity that I stumbled across, that this is a legacy that I can leave for my children. But it's a legacy that I'm living right now. My children get to watch their mom, be an entrepreneur, be a business owner, be a leader, pouring into others. They're watching me. And one of the greatest experiences that I had is when I went to Austin, and I think I was walking the stage for annual sales or superstar director. And my daughter, who's now 18, was able to walk with me. And I want my kids to know what my mom has taught me and continues to teach me, is that as women, we can be anything that we want to be, even when the odds are stacked against us. When you're walking that stage, you know, you're the odd. And I was listening to a podcast the other day for educational purposes, but there was a lady that was kind of speaking somewhat derogatory about our industry. And she was saying that there's only a certain percentage, that makes it to the top. And I'm just listening to it. And I was like, to some degree, there's accuracy, but there's also a certain percentage that is willing to show up, that's willing to train, that's willing to, stand back up after wiping off the tears, that's willing to deal with a certain level of stress. There's just a certain percentage, but the opportunity, it's available for all. And I guess, I can take this a little bit deeper, but for me, I have so much gratitude that keeps me here because I'm not supposed to be here. And so there's not a day that I wake up that I just thank God for this opportunity. My life, by my own doing, started very early. I was a single mom, or I was a teen mom, and I got pregnant in the 11th grade. And so my life kind of fast forwarded in the 11th grade because my mom and dad were amazing. They taught us well. They had morals and ethics, and my decisions were my decisions. And so I had to figure out how to start my life at an early age. And there's so many people that told me that I couldn't, and it wasn't my parents. They told me that I was just going to have to figure it out. That I couldn't raise my daughter, that I wasn't going to be a good mom, that I would work so much that I, wouldn't be able to nurture her. Just all of these things that were, stacked up against me. I'm not college educated yet. But nothing has stopped me. And so when I get up in the morning, I don't take any of this for granted, that I can make an income that doctors and lawyers make, knowing that my life started out very challenging. I was in a very abusive relationship, physically and mentally. I'm not supposed to have my vision today, but by the grace of God, I do. So when I can look at someone, pour into them, help someone, I know that this was an opportunity that wasn't supposed to be. And I was a maid, because I remember when I had my daughter, I was like, okay, I've got to do anything. And my mom would always tell me that, you've got to go out in this world. Like, opportunity is not just going to come knocking on your door with an application. You've got to get out there, present yourself, and you've got to work, and you've got to work hard. And I did. But here's the deal. Even though I'm a superstar director at the top of Scentsy right now, one would say, well, you've arrived, but I arrived when I was a maid working for Mary Maids. I was a hard worker then. I showed up to work every day. I was consistent. I had pride in what I do, and those same values carry on today. So what keeps me today is knowing that I'm not supposed to be here in this seat, but I worked hard, and I want my children to know that that hard work pays off. Because I struggled and I worked, again, as a maid, I worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken, I worked at 7-Eleven, I did anything and everything that I could, right, to care for my kids. And so I did not have the opportunity to, save up for college funds or anything, for my kids, because I was in survival mode. And today, I still kind of work with those ethics, like I'm surviving, right? And I'm trying to learn how to, balance that. But that's what keeps me, is knowing that I have 4 children, and I get to have a hand in changing the trajectory of their futures. And even though the doors closed as far as not being able to save for them for college or whatever, the doors have reopened. And it wasn't the way that society dictated or necessarily designed it to be, but I fought hard to be here. And so I fight hard to stay here every single morning.
You are so articulate.
Thank you.
You are so beautiful, and you are so articulate. And being college educated or not college educated doesn't define you in the least.
No.
In the least. So you have 4 children, and one is 18, or was 18 at the time, or one is 18.
She's 18 now.
Okay, so what are their ages, and what is your favorite thing about each of them?
Okay, so I have an older daughter. Her name is Alexis. She is in the Navy. She actually has a college degree. My husband actually gifted me, when he was in the Air Force, for our anniversary one year, he said, I have a GI Bill, and I know that your dream has always been to go to college. And really my dream is still to go to college, because so many people told me that I couldn't. I don't necessarily need to, right? But I gifted that to my daughter because I want my children to have better than I had before I have better than them, if that makes sense. I'm so proud of her because we grew up together. I had her right when I turned 18, and she knows me better than anyone. She knows the struggles. She remembers probably going to churches and getting $20 gift cards to the grocery store. She remembers us living in transitional housing and having a social worker, meet with us monthly about goals. She remembers that. And she has made me so proud, because I want nothing more than my children to have a better life, and through making better decisions, and to have more. And she's a hard worker. It was ironic when she graduated from college. I was like, okay, so what are you going to do now? She's like, I'm going in the military. I was like, normally people go in the military to go to college, right? So, but I'm so proud of her. She's a homeowner. And then I have my daughter Amaya, who just graduated, and I couldn't be any more proud of her. She goes to Abilene Christian University. She makes better grades than I ever could. And she works. She chooses to work. She doesn't necessarily have to, but she works a couple of hours a day. She loves kids. I have a 12-year-old son who I love. What I love about him is he's very black and white. He's very matter of fact, but he's a gentleman. He's always been a gentleman. I've had 2 individual teachers call me from school in the past week, and I thought, oh my God, I hope he doesn't have COVID. I hope, you know what I mean? You just think the worst. And they were like, I just want to let you know that he was a top student. someone, dropped something, or if I think someone got hurt or something, and no one provoked him to do anything, but on his own, he helped them. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he came home and he didn't even say anything about it. I waited and I was like, Steven, do you want to tell me anything? No. And I was like, did something special happen at school today? He was like, oh yeah, someone did say something special happened, but I helped someone and they brought me to the office. And I'm like, so being special to him and being kind to him is first nature. And I love that. And then I have my little Spitfire, Kylie. She's 10 years old and everyone calls her Smiley Kylie. And I hope that she always smiles for the rest of her life. When she's not smiling, she's not feeling well, because it's just ingrained in her. She just wakes up smiling and happy. And so I'm inspired, by each of my kids.
You are such a success.
Thank you.
You are such a success.
Thank you.
You have shown your children what it's like to live, to not have everything handed to you, but to be able to provide, especially for the younger ones. They know a different life than your older two, probably.
Yes, absolutely.
And you are a success and for many reasons, but if for no other reason, look what you've done. Look what you've done. Oh, I thank you. Thank you for sharing about them, because you can see so much about somebody when they light up and talk about their children. And I love seeing that. And so thank you for sharing that with us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, let me ask you, let's ask a couple of fun questions. So what's your favorite quote and what's your favorite word?
Oh my gosh. Ooh, my favorite quote. My favorite quote is kind of weird, but it's, don't let your lack of planning become my emergency.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. I love that. I have never heard that.
Yeah.
Ever. Say it one more time.
Do not allow your lack of planning to become my emergency.
Oh, shoot. I have got to write that down. That is a good one.
I just remember when I worked in the airport, it was a male dominant industry, and I was probably one of the very few females. And I had an office upstairs, and all the time someone would come running in the office like, I need this, I need it. And I'm like, okay, I know that you need it, but you knew you needed this. And so now, you didn't plan this. And now you're trying to put your lack of planning and make it my emergency. And that just,
like I said, I love that so much. You know how many people are going to relate to that.
Right.
Do you have a favorite word?
Oh gosh, I don't know that I have a favorite word.
Favorite word you like to use? A favorite word, a word because it's just fun in the English language?
I think it's ridiculous, but I say awesome too much. And so, whenever I'm typing, I'm like, that's awesome. And I'm like, find another word in the vocabulary. But that's the word that I lean on, because I'm always looking for awesomeness. And so it's the first thing that comes to me.
Hey, but how cool that awesome is the first thing that comes out instead of something negative.
Right.
Like your perspective on things is just, things are awesome.
Right.
I love that. So, gosh, what's one of your favorite things about our Scentsy community?
The Scentsy community, what I love about it is it lines up with my morals and my ethics and my values. What's so neat is that, we were both in corporate America for a long time, and I learned a lot, but sometimes it was very cutthroat. And so when I walked into this industry, I was like, what is this? It felt like being in Whoville at times, like, in a Dr. Seuss book. I was like, people are not this nice and giving, and like we have a leadership support group where everyone's giving. And I'm like, so do we have to pay for this? Or is it like, are people trying to, champion for an award? And it's not. It's like a beautiful melting pot of support And I just remember sometimes, having to be careful, like in corporate America, sharing, because I'm like, you wouldn't believe this. I had this great idea last night, and I'm going to learn this, and I can't wait to share it. And then we would have like a meeting, and somebody else would share it, and it was their idea. I was like, you got to be kidding me, And so it was a weird environment at times. And it's not that way in the Scentsy culture. And it starts from the top. Whenever you walk into even sometimes a store and you just see things in disarray and stuff, it starts at the top with leadership. And we have amazing owners in this company, Heidi and Orville. They are amazing. And then it trickles down, to the executives, to the superstar directors, to the certified consultants, to the essential consultants. And it's not toxic. So yeah, that's what I really love. I love the community and I love the atmosphere. I don't feel like I have to dodge bullets when I get up to work every day.
Oh, I love it. If okay, this is one of my favorite questions, so I have to make sure that I get to it.
Sure.
I have like a million things I still want to ask you. So
oh gosh, yes.
You just excite me, and I love this conversation with you. Tell me things that you love. Just throw them at me. They can be tangible, intangible. What are things that you love?
Okay. I love macaroni and cheese a lot. I love Jesus. I love my husband. I love all of my children. I love my parents. I love helping others. I love learning. I love Home Goods. I love shopping at Home Goods. And yeah, I love beating the odds. I love modern day miracles. I love inspirational and motivational speakers. What else do I love? I love fragrance. And I love seeing the underdog rise.
It's so important when you can rattle off things that you love, not because you don't know what you love, but more so, it's really good to bring them up here again, to remind ourselves the things that we love.
Mm-hmm.
The things I really love that mac and cheese came before everybody.
Yeah, you know what? Even before Jesus, I'm sorry. Can we do that over? Sorry. I love mac and cheese.
Shall we pause? Do we want to pray?
Right?
No, I'm just kidding. But I love, because a lot of times as women, we lose our sense of self into all of our responsibilities. Yes. We lose our sense of self by everything that tugs at us all day long.
Right.
And we lose, at the end of the day, we sit down on the couch and we beat ourselves up and feel empty.
Right.
We can feel that way. We can feel that way.
We're depleted. I have to say too, one of the things that I left out is I love nature and I love being around water, whether it's the beach or the lake or, just anything.
Okay. So you were saying one of the things that you left out that you loved.
Yes. One of the things that I left out was I love nature. I love being around bodies of water, lakes, beaches. And the last thing I love is challenges. I am always up for the challenge. I know that sounds kind of cliche, but what I'm saying is that when I see something that seems impossible or, scary, I'm like, all right, let's dive in,
Yeah.
I live for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, and again, that just, it goes to being able to reflect on the things that you do love and call those back to the front of our minds, right? Because it's very easy to lose sight of those things. We get into the daily monotony, we get into the hustle and bustle. And at the end of the day, having that time to reflect or, which actually leads me to, what do you do to take time for yourself?
Oh gosh. So that's always a challenge for me. And And so I'm learning lately that I have to be very intentional. So I just finished a huge fundraiser for a school. I mean, it was amazing. I get to write them a $2,400 check in the next couple of weeks. But I also know that it depleted me. And so I took the day off on Friday. I live in the middle of nowhere, so there's not a Home Goods here or an IKEA. And I was like, I'm gonna get the kids off to school and I'm gonna drive 2.5 hours just randomly. Oh, and I'm going to go to Dallas and I'm going to Krispy Kreme Donuts. That's something else that I love. And I'm going to go to IKEA and Home Goods, and then I'm gonna come back home the same day. So I did that. And then earlier this week, I want to say Tuesday, I was like, you know what? I'm going to get a pedicure and a manicure. And that's stuff that I think I was 23 years old when I had ever got my nails done or anything like that. And so that's something that I'm learning, not to fit myself in, but to make myself a priority. And to find balance so that way I don't get burnt out. Here's the thing. In our business, they say that there's no cap, right? There's no cap in the income. And sometimes we have to be careful because we don't cap our time investment. And that's where I kind of fell short before, because I was so intrigued by it all these ideas and so many people to help and, business growing, that I wouldn't cap my time. And so now I'm making it a purpose to say, you know what? We're in this for time freedom, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That totally. Are you a morning planner or an evening planner?
Evening. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So does that mean you are in the evening setting your agenda for the next day? Or tell us what that means.
So for me, I have always liked the evenings, even in my last career, because the phone's not ringing. Most people are sleeping. And it's quiet time for me. And it's like, I can think, the doorbell's not ringing. Nobody needs me. And so I do. I don't watch a lot of TV. I do watch. One of my guilty pleasures is Teen Mom. I've watched it from the beginning because I can relate to it differently than I think most society can. But I listen to podcasts. It's okay. I listen to podcasts and different training, like we have training inside Scentsy and stuff. So usually I'm working, I'm planning, I'm looking at reports. Who do I want to pour into specifically the next day? What are my own goals? What customers do I need to reach out to serve? And so I get to do that in calm and quietness. And I can do that. Like my husband, we are opposite, which they say opposites attract. But he'll kind of see me at 11 o'clock and he's like, I mean, you're just like wired. And I'm like, yeah, for me, it's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I used to be a night owl, and then, and I still kind of am a night owl. I mean, I really don't get to bed much before 1 o'clock in the morning, but I find that that's more of my come down time. And so I like to just kind of space out and veg and who knows what gets my attention and I end up falling asleep. But, in the morning, I have found I like that time, is everything okay? I like that time to just be with me.
Right.
To just be with me and gather my thoughts for the day, set my intentions for the day. I feel like I'm better for everybody else when I've had time to have that time for me. And,
right.
and that takes conscientious effort. It takes effort to carve out time for yourself. And we are busy. Nobody could tell you or I they're busy and us not understand.
Right.
We understand that. But a lot of times we have to ask, what are we busy about?
Right.
About, and that there is time. There is 30 minutes in a day to carve out for you to do something for yourself. There is 30 minutes in a day for you to kind of get yourself mentally prepared to face and tackle and be able to be for everybody else.
Right. Right.
And so do you do any kind of journaling?
No
journal. No. Is it, have you ever?
Never.
No.
And you know, the way that I kind of look at it, remember I told you I've kind of fast forwarded my life
Yeah.
at an early age. And so, you know, there was times where I would get up in the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work at FedEx at 6 o'clock for 1 hour. And I got paid $10 an hour to work the sort and literally lifted like thousands of pounds of packages. So whenever anyone complains about FedEx or UPS, I feel some kind of way about that. I know why those packages get lost or crushed or whatever. But anyway, I did that for an hour, and then I would go work for Mary Maids for 8 hours. And then after Mary Maids, I'd get my daughter home from school, and then I would go work at 7-Eleven and still get evicted from my apartment because I couldn't afford it. So in that moment, I did not have time to journal. And so that's what I'm trying to figure out now with my life is I don't have to keep operating like the Energizer Bunny at that rate, rate of speed, but I still do. Like I still work as if I'm a single mom of 2 kids having to go to work at 7-Eleven, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's one of my challenges is to learn how to pause because I've always dreamt of sitting on the porch and reading a book. I have so many books, but I don't sit down really often, and I'd rather podcast. So that's something that I'm working on.
Yeah, I certainly am not out to set you on a path of journaling. I actually am not really a journaler either.
Oh, okay.
I have good intention. I find that my journaling lately has been on Instagram. That's kind of been my brain dump. It's for me, but if somebody else gets something out of it, then that's fine too.
Mm-hmm.
And Allison Dalkey and I had an interesting conversation when I sat down with her, and she said, first and foremost, I write for myself. I don't write for anybody else. I write for myself. She said, and I said, I feel exactly that way. That is how I've just chosen Instagram to be my platform.
Mm-hmm.
But that could be a notebook. It could be a notebook. It could be Instagram. It doesn't matter. But I'm writing for me. And if I can speak to anybody else, then it's a bonus.
Right.
And so maybe that's kind of my journaling. But no, I'm not a journaler either. And nor was I going to set out to tell you that you need to be.
Right.
Just curious. Tell me, because I can't, now that you and I apologize for our technical difficulties.
Oh,
this
it's
is
fine.
crazy. Tell me, what is the time?
Oh, the time now is 9:03 my time.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
So we've got like 10 minutes. So,
Okay.
Any productivity hack that you have? Productivity hack or life hack?
I don't know. Give me an example.
It could be anything that you're like, this changed the way I do some things, or
Okay.
this when I finally learned this tool or skill, it changed me. When I finally started using this app or this website or I got an assistant, or I put my kids to work, whatever.
Okay. So, here's the thing is, for me, I am very simplistic, really. But so being with Scentsy for 7 years, I can look at different people that I look up to, and I was like, oh my gosh, their claim to fame is this, or they're the event queen, or they're the, basket party queen. And I was like, and part of it's my undiagnosed ADHD, but I'm like, I'm a hot mess, But Becca Levi, who's a friend and mentor of mine, always says you don't have to be perfect to be powerful, right? And so up until recently, I was like, I don't really have a claim to fame, or a hack for me. But I can tell you that recently, I found it in this business. When we were going into this current incentive, I was just kind of like, maybe I've reached the end of who can join my team, or, or my high PRP or whatever. You know how you just have those doubts that kind of come in your mind? Right. And so I was just kind of searching, who else is going to join my team? Who else could I possibly ask? Right. And I said, you know what, let's go back down to basics. And I started doing virtual parties. And what I did is I set up if you look at the table of contents in our catalog, it kind of takes you on a journey from the charitable cause, all the way down to the joint opportunity. And so now that's what I do. I have 30-minute demonstrations that I do with my customers online. And I used to, like, back in the day, do like a 30-day party, a 2-week party, a 1-week party. And now it's a 30-minute demonstration because people pretty much kind of know, that they want what they want or if they want, right? And they also want their time. So they don't want to, you don't want to be in a home, seeing things for 30 days. So you don't want to be online doing that either. So anyway, I've been doing that. It's been very successful. And then school fundraisers, that's been amazing. I've done 2 years in a row. Just closed an $8,000 school fundraiser. And I've just learned, along the way. So for me, I don't know, I just kind of keep things simple. I don't have a lot of bells and whistles. I use the notes in my iPhone. So I get thoughts out of my mind, and I just, wherever I'm at, if I'm parked, I just put it in my notes on my phone.
Yeah.
And act on it. Yeah.
Yeah. The notes and the reminders in my phone are probably the two most used tools for sure.
Right.
Okay. This is a fun question.
Okay.
Your family comes to you and says, we are sending you away for the weekend, just you, and it can be anywhere in the world. Where do you go and what do you do with that weekend?
Wow, that's a good one. If my family was sending me anywhere, golly, I think that I would ask them to send me to, I don't know, I'm torn between South Africa again or the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I love nature and I love the water. And what would I do? So let's say that it was the Bahamas. I would probably not bring my electronics with me because I don't have to. So no one can plug into me and I can fill my cup. I would bring the books, the many books that have been gifted to me or that I purchased that I haven't completely read. And I would just spend time with me, something that I don't do.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you.
Okay, you have the ability to take us out, say anything that you want. You can say anything. This is the stage is yours.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. That's, well, what I want to say, I guess, in closing is that I want women to know, and particularly, that it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter your skin color. It doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter the odds that are stacked up against you. It doesn't matter if you're single, if you're married, if you're divorced, if you're a single mom. You have the power to do and be anything that you want to be and do. I love Scentsy, but Scentsy also is not our identity. It is a vessel to help us reach our dreams and to impact the world. And I just want everyone to know that. I'm really big in advocating for all communities, but I also lead I help co-admin the African American network with Angie Williams. And I just want everyone to know that there's room at the table. There really is. And even if your mind tells you there's not, then you have the opportunity to build the table yourself. If you allow your mind to tell you that there's not room for you or you don't belong, one, that's a lie. But number two, if you're going to align with that lie, you have the tools, you have the ability to build your own table. And I also want to speak to, I guess, everyone, because, when I grew up I am still biracial. With my father being African American and my mom being German, I always didn't feel like I belonged or that I was worthy. I grew up going to school where there was just two African Americans in the classroom, and usually I was one, right? And so I never felt worthy. I wasn't always invited to the table. And sometimes I was uninvited to the table when people found out that I wasn't tan all year long, right? But I'm unbothered by that today because I know that and I've proven, and so many others have proven, that we can be whoever we want to be and however we want to be it. We get to dictate our journey, no matter how life started for us, no matter what our mistakes were. We get to change the chapters in our own book. And so I really want to encourage everyone, to be kind. I remember in high school that there was, there were tribes, there were cliques and things like that. But I want to encourage everyone to reach out. And I want to thank you for reaching out as well, not just with me, but with so many others. There's so many people that are powerful in their own right, but sometimes their voices aren't heard. And I love what you do, Melissa, because you are allowing a platform in and outside of Scentsy for others to come together. And that's what Scentsy is all about. That's how and why I believe Heidi and Orville created this, is for all of us to have a united place for us to come together, no matter what our backgrounds are or what our challenges are. So I do have a book that I did finish reading, and I want to leave with this quote. Let me see if I can find it. I hope I can. Here it is. It's the last page, and it's the autobiography of Martin Luther King. I love him and I adore him. It's the last page. And one of the things that I read a long time ago, as magnificent as he is, he ended his book saying, if I could help somebody. And so you, Melissa, you are helping. Not only are you helping somebody, but you are helping many, and you're helping me and so many. And so I want to leave this message with everybody. He ends the autobiography this way. He says, I'd like for somebody to say that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to love somebody. I want you to say that day that I tried to be right on the war of question. I want you to be able to say that day that I did try to feed the hungry. And I want you to be able to say that day that I did try in my life to clothe those who were naked. I want you to say on that day that I did try in my life to visit those who were in prison. I want you to say that I tried to love and to serve humanity. Yes, if you want to say that I was a drum major, say that I was a drum major for justice. Say that I was a drum major for peace. I was a drum major for righteousness, and all of the other shallow things will not matter. I won't have any money to leave behind. I won't have the fine and luxurious things of life to leave behind, but I just want to leave a committed life behind. And that's all I wanted to say. If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or song, if I can show somebody he's traveling wrong, then my living will not be in vain. If I can do my duty as a Christian ought to, if I can bring salvation to a world once wrought, if I can spread the message as the master taught, then my living will not be in vain. And so I wanted to end on that note, because everything that I read, you are, and everything that I read, I want to continue to be. So thank you for being a drum major, not just in Scentsy, but outside of Scentsy. You are a world changer, and I love you.
Oh my gosh, Theresa. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for sitting down with me. Thank you for allowing me to share you with the world.
Absolutely. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.